Hey everybody, back with another video. I was working on a project in my garage on a Nintendo Red Tent. This is a Sanyo 18-inch XM18 or something like that monitor. And I didn't hose it off actually, I need to clean it a little bit better. Anyway, I wanted to bring it down and power it up on the bench and probably recap the monitor. I don't know if it works or not, but that led me to do to kind of cover something new that I picked up. So in the past I've used a Nintendo power supply transformer because these Nintendo monitors require 100 volts instead of like 120 isolation transformer. So you need to have like a Nintendo brick like this. This one's out of a punch out, has a nice little power on off switch, which is kind of cool. It was that punch out or a Play Choice 10, I'm not sure, but it was one of those. But eventually I want to put this back in that's another project that I'm working on. So I've been using this to power up the monitor, and you could potentially, if you had an extra one of these, wire up a switch so that you can output basically 100 volts to the monitor or 120 volts. So these are actually kind of good on a bench if you wanted to, but I've just had it wired for 100 volts. And this is the unit that I've typically used. If you can see this here, this is what I've used typically to power up my monitors. I have an isolation transformer here, a ground clip for earth ground, and isolated 120 volts. The only thing is you know, it's exposed, and you know, it's not great, and I have to use two. If I'm testing a Nintendo monitor, I have to use this. If I'm testing a regular monitor, I have to use this. So recently I actually picked up this right here, which is a VIZ ISOTAP WP-27A. And basically what's cool about this thing is you can actually adjust the output voltage of the isolation. So it's an isolated transformer, and I'll touch on that just a little bit, but why you need an isolation transformer when working on monitors. These are called live chassis. So you know, and if you know about electricity in your house, you got your neutral plug and your hot plug and your ground, and basically your neutral and ground, earth ground, are actually tied together in your house, right, at your panel. So that's why you need isolation transformer is basically isolating your neutral from earth ground. So when the power is on here, and you know, you touch something, the electricity is not going to try to get to you through your body to get to ground. Is the idea. I mean, you'll still get zapped most likely, but I mean, it's not going to be because it's isolated. You're not going to get the full 120 volts right to ground, because it's not trying to find ground. That's the general idea. So you need an isolated transformer, but this VIZ tap here allows you to basically go from 100 volts to 120, 115, 110, etc. So I figured what we do in this video is review this thing a little bit and power up this monitor just to see if it works. But really the video is about this VIZ ISOTAP WP-27A, and I'm going to get it on tripod, and then we'll cover some stuff with it. Alright, so we have it on the tripod. One of the things is it's very small form factor, right? I mean, this thing is not that big. It is heavy as crap. I don't know how heavy it is, but it feels about like a good 10 to 15 pounds at least. Let me put it in the middle here. So you have your isolated output here, and you also have two monitor jacks for your multimeter, so we can actually monitor like this. Stick them in there, get our meter in the place. It says here AC voltage in. I might even take this apart. It says for power rating, see case bottom. So if you flip it over on the bottom, we have, you know, AC power coming in and ground, so this should be grounded to earth ground, and then that's isolated and to this other side of the transformer, and you have these switches basically to increment from 25, 50, 75, 100, 125, and then you have 5 volts, 10, 15, 20, 25, and then that goes to your monitor. So TV repairmen actually use this. And then it says your power ratings here, what your amps are. So 2.5 amps at 150, 4 amps at 100. That's way more than we'll ever need to power these monitors. But the thing that this one does not have is some of these, and so you don't actually lay it like this, you just keep it like that. That's how it goes on your bench. This one, a lot of these actually have a fuse, either thermal or some type of fuse there. And so I figured what I'd do is just show you a couple pictures I found on the web. And you can see for this one here, this is the bottom. Obviously, it only had 3 feet. Mine has 4, which is kind of interesting. This one looks like it only has 3 feet. So they obviously made these a bunch of different ways. But you can see that there was a fuse here, a 10 amp fuse on the hot side coming in. So that would be from the line right here. The hot going to the on the line side would have been fused at 10 amps. And then there's no fuse going to the monitor. I found that kind of interesting, right? So that was one model. And then this model, hopefully, gosh, it's a little bit almost too bright or something, but this says 25 volts up there. On this one, it says you got 120 volts AC coming in, ground, and then you have a probably a thermal fuse right here on the hot side. And then you also have a circuit breaker between the 15 volt and your monitor here. So I don't know, you know, what kind of circuit breaker that is. I don't know. So, and I don't have any pictures of what that looked like. So obviously these went through a couple revisions, and I think I will be modding this eventually, maybe not in this video, and putting a couple fuses in here to represent what they had there, like a circuit breaker. That circuit breaker sounds like it should be, I don't know why does one say thermostat, one says circuit breaker. I might have to look that up. But I figured at this point what we'll do is we'll just test this real quick while I'm on the tripod, and I'll be right back. Alright, for completeness sake, I'm going to actually test my wall voltage. I actually pulled out the plug just a little bit. Can't do it with 2 hands, you know, or 1 hand, I guess. So you guys watch this, and we're just going to test the wall voltage here. 119 volts AC. Yeah, the hot is on the left, right? No, hot is on the right, I think. Well, we'll find out here in a second. No, neutral is on the left, because I just went from neutral to ground, and right now I'm doing, if you guys can see that, I know you can't see it, but I'm going from earth ground to hot, and I get 119 volts. Neutral to earth ground, I get almost nothing. Hopefully you can see this. There, that's better. Alright, so neutral, plug on the left to earth ground, almost nothing. Neutral to hot, 100 and almost 20 volts. And hot to earth ground, 120 volts. So that is why we use isolation transformers, or one of the main reasons is because ground is tied to neutral and the electricity will try to find its way to ground on a hot chassis like we work on with the monitors, so on most monitors anyway. So the other thing I did here is I actually have just a little bit, let's see here. There we go. That actually, you can see it better. I have a little light here, but I'm going to turn it away, I think, somewhat. And we're going to put in our plugs. Alright, we can see pretty good. So right now, well, that's kind of weird. I'm getting 28 volts. On auto, I'm getting 7.7 volts AC. And I have everything turned off. This is, I don't understand this yet. So, why am I getting 28 volts? Let me turn on. Yeah, my light is turned on. So that's kind of weird. Why is my auto volts? But it's all, when I have a slight load on it, it's like 7.7 volts AC. All right. Let me see if it changes if I unplug my light. No, it doesn't matter. So without the light, we got at 25, when I set it to 0 and 25, I'm at 26 volts AC. I don't know why it doesn't go completely off. See, now I'm at 54 when I go secondary off. Makes no sense. I think something's up here, but that's 25, 50, but I'm showing 52. At 75, I show 78 volts. At 100, I'm showing 105 volts. So it's about 5 volts probably off. At 125, I'm showing 130 volts, and then I can go up by 5. It's 136. That's 10 to 140. Damn. 146. So 125 plus, or 125 was 130. 130 plus 15. That looks right. It's about 1 volt off. Plus 20. Plus 25. So that's 125, which is basically 130 because it's about 5 volts off over here. 75 plus 25. So that's one way we could power up the Nintendo monitor this way. Or even better yet, 75 plus 20. Or we could just go straight to 100, which would be around 104. But if we want straight up 100 volts, I mean, that's pretty good right there. That's 99.4 volts right there. We can power up a Nintendo monitor, and if we need to power up a regular monitor, we just go to that right there. Or we could go to 120. So it's not, it is somewhat of a variable, what do they call that? A variac isolation transformer. They have ones that are a little bit more granular that you can like fine-tune the voltage as you ramp it up, but I thought this would be kind of cool, and it's relatively cheap to power on at your bench here. So let me pause and turn on this light. Alright, I have that turned on there, the light there. The light won't even come on at 52 volts. 26. Okay, now went down all the way to 0 now. Is that because I had a load on it or something, and before I didn't have a load? Interesting. Let me see if I unplug it or just turn it off. Yep. If there's a small load on it, it's definitely off or something like that. I have to, somebody smarter than me is going to be able to explain why. I think I might have seen a thread on that. I might have to look that up real quick. But yeah, because with the load, it goes, the secondary off is working. It goes all the way down to 0.4 volts. which is basically what we saw going from neutral to earth ground. 26 volts, 52 volts. At 75 volts, I got my light coming on, and this is a fluorescent light. I burnt 2 bulbs out, I guess, trying to mess with it. 104 volts. Now, I don't know what happens if I I probably shouldn't go more than 120, I'm sure. So that's 100, 105 plus 5 plus 10 plus 15 plus 20, and then all the way up to 130. Cool. So let me research that and figure out why, if I don't have a load on it, that it reads 29 volts AC. I'm not sure why that is, but the secondary off is definitely working. Cool. Okay, I read the article and it doesn't really make sense to me, but basically when I'm reading this voltage with my meter, now my meter is basically connecting the secondary windings, and so this is some type of volt leakage, except for there's not a lot of current going through it, because I have like a 10K. I don't know what my digital multimeter is, but there's some resistance there. And when I actually hook up, let me measure the resistance to my light. When I measure it on my light, the resistance with it powered off, come on now, it's open, right? And so if I power it, turn the light on, basically I end up with like 5 mega ohms or something, 40, 30, 36, somewhere around there, 30 mega ohms or something. Keeps going down, but that is providing, I guess, decoupling the capacitance or something. I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but I just know that this is why when that's on, our secondary winding will read correctly. So 0.4 volts, which is basically nothing. And then we turn it on, 26 volts, 50, 75, we actually get the light to turn on. Cool. So I am going to basically I'm going to power up the Nintendo monitor at basically 75 plus 20, 98 volts, or I could just go straight up to 100. It would be fine at 103, just like that. So I'll just leave it like that, and we'll power on the Nintendo monitor here real quick. Hook it up with the TPG. Alright, I have the TPG turned on here. Do I? Turn it on. And we're going to turn it on for the first time here. We're going to go up to 100. Now, you're kind of bringing the monitor on slowly. Right at 100 is when we heard it come on. It sounds like, boom, works. And so that's really all I wanted to show, guys. I'm not actually going to show a little bit of degaussing there, but this looks fine. I think with the TPG you can invert the colors, because the colors are inverted right now. But the monitor looks somewhat decent. I'm going to do a tube restore and maybe recap it. I don't know. But it's working. Maybe I won't touch it. I don't know. But that's what I really wanted to show, guys, using my VIZ ISOTAP to do as a new isolation transformer for my bench. I think this is going to be a lot better than this stuff down there, using the Nintendo one, using my other one. I'm just going to use this. I am going to hook up a ground strap. Like right now there's no earth ground, so I am going to tie an earth ground here, so I can clip it onto the monitor frame. That's I think that's a good thing to do, right? I mean, usually they are tied to earth ground. These things right here are tied to earth ground, even though it's isolated. You tie this piece of metal to earth ground in the cabinet. So, all right, is that it? If it is, I'll cut this out later. But got my new VIZ ISOTAP WP-27A. I'll probably get a better Variac isolation transformer eventually, but this thing is pretty cool just for quick and dirty. Plug your monitor in, especially for Nintendo monitors, and you can do both Nintendo or regular Wells Garner type monitors or Electro Home and stuff like that. Obviously not vector monitors, but all the raster stuff. Oh, it's still working at 75 volts. Stopped at 50, and now it should be off. Let's do this. Turn on a voltage. What we got there? Yep, there's basically no voltage with the secondary off. So if we come up, 77 volts, it's not turning on. Sorry, that's in the way a little bit. And hopefully I didn't break anything. 104 volts. Monitor came right on. Cool. That's at 103, 104 volts. Alright, I think I am done. If not, I'll edit it and come back later.